Alright, hi guys, I'm Nicholas, and I'm going to explain to you why Jesus is actually the Messiah, the Prince, using Bible verses only from the Old Testament, from the Hebrew Bible, and pure math. So, just to make some things clear, there is a difference between a year that we know, which is 365 days, and the Hebrew year, or like the prophetic year, which is actually 360 days. And the proof of why it's that length is based on Genesis. 5 months was equal to 150 days, which means each month was 30 days, and a year is 360 days. So this is what's called a prophetic year. And also something you need to know is of King Artaxerxes, who was a ruler of the Achaemenid Empire. He was mentioned in the book of Nehemiah, and he will play an important role for what I'm about to mention. So Nehemiah is asking, or the king asking Nehemiah, bro, why are you so sad? This was in Nehemiah chapter 2. And this is his 20th year ruling, so it's 445 BC. Nehemiah was like, well, why wouldn't I be? My city got destroyed. Can I rebuild? And the king was like, for sure, bro. And also something else, 100 years before this, God told the prophet Daniel that there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens between when the word goes out to rebuild Jerusalem and Messiah. And this is from Daniel chapter 9. So what does that even mean? Like 7 sevens, 62 sevens? Like just tell me if it's this amount of years or something. But the word for sevens in Hebrew is Shabuah, which is actually a period of 7, and it could be interpreted as 7 days or years. So let's interpret it both ways. Let's say it was 7 days. Well, then that would mean it was less than 10 years after Daniel. Well, then if the Christ was coming 10 years after Daniel, why is there Nehemiah? Why is there Ezra or Zechariah or Haggai or Malachi? These were all prophets who came much after Daniel, who prophesied about the Christ. So if it was 7 days, there would be no need for those prophets. So it has to be a period of 7 years. This is my point. Malachi, he's talking about the messenger of the Lord, which was John the Baptist. And then Zechariah, the king, riding a colt. So by sense of reason, Shavuot is actually 7 years, not 7 days, as you sometimes see in some translations. It says weeks. So 7 plus 62, 69 periods of 7 years, which is actually 483 years, between the word from Artaxerxes, which, as we saw, was when Jerusalem would be rebuilt, to the coming of Messiah the Prince. So 483 years. But hold up, these are prophetic years, because it was revealed through prophecy, of course. So it's not 483 years as we think of it, as 365 day years, which I noticed a typo, but it's actually 483 years of 360 days, years. What a bummer. Well, we have to do the math to convert the prophetic years to actual years. So this image is made with AI and some math with Desmos. We see that doing a proportion, 483 prophetic years is actually the same as 476.4 actual years. And 445 BC, 476 years later after that, is 31 AD. So from 445 BC to 31 AD is 476.4 years. And I mentioned this verse, Zechariah 9:9, that Messiah the Prince is coming in a colt in the foal of a donkey. And based on the math, he's going to be coming to Jerusalem in 31 AD, riding a donkey. And in Matthew 21, we see this very same thing happening, that Jesus of Nazareth, he who is the Christ actually, he's coming on a colt to Jerusalem at the exact date that was prophesied by Daniel, and that is calculated by math. So in conclusion, by the Hebrew Bible and math, Jesus of Nazareth is actually the Christ. He is truly Messiah, the Prince. By faith, this is true, but also I believe this in my mind, through reasoning and logic, through what the scriptures and what we know about history. And of course, this isn't the end. There are so many more points in the Hebrew Bible that literally reflect exactly what happened in the life of Jesus. Many of those things which were out of his control. For example, in Psalms 22, which mentioned the distributing his garments, betting on his garments, and another place in Psalms where it was mentioned that they give him vinegar to drink. And there are so many other places, like Micah 5:2, that the Savior will be born in Bethlehem. Genesis 3:15, that his heels will be crushed, but he will crush the head of the serpent. And these are all just things that God has given us graciously that show to us that Jesus is actually the Christ. He is the Messiah.